Alright, here we are. So this should be the last video in this week's series. So, now that we've got our assembly created, we've got our exploded view created, we've got our exploded lines in. Now we need to go ahead and create a drawing to be able to actually present this. Because, again, remember what I said when we got into the drawings. That's kind of the culmination of what we as designers and engineers and creators and drafters do, is we create this this piece of paper or this layout to be able to convey the message that we want to someone else. That's what puts us apart from just a thinker. Is we have the ability to convey that information. So it's a mandatory thing that we kind of fine-tune or hone that skill to be able to create these things. 3D printing is awesome. You know, conceptualizing is cool, but we got to be able to get that information across without that necessity, because having to create a 3D print for every single component is time-consuming and expensive. So we want to be able to do this on paper. Paper's cheap, and a computer screen, if they don't have to print it out, is even better. So let's go ahead and create that drawing. We're going to go File, New, or just hit this New button here. We want a drawing. Now, yet again, we're going to be going with ANSI B. I don't like C size, and I don't... Yeah, C, nobody uses C. I'm just going to tell you right now, I can't remember the last time... no, I can remember the last time I came across a C drawing. It was drawn about 25 years ago. So take that into consideration when you're looking at paper sizes. The majority of U.S. paper printers that print larger format print a 11 by 17, which is a B size. So let's go ahead and stay on B, ANSI Landscape. Hit OK. And that's going to bring up our paper space. Now, don't pay attention to Extrudes EXE1. That's because that's still up from the last time. We want Links Assembly. So we're going to go ahead and double click on that. And when we double click on that, we got a whole bunch of options over here. So under the first one, we've got reference configuration. So this is if we have multiple configurations like you guys had on the machine block, you can actually tell it which configuration we want to make. Now, we only have one configuration in this one, so it's only going to have one option. If I click that drop down, it's going to give me that one. Now, right below that is an interesting little checkbox that says Show in Exploded or Model Break State. So that exploded view that we just created is contained within the model, and it's attached to the configuration that it was created in. So if you're in a configuration with an exploded view, that checkbox will be able to be checked, or in this case is checked, because I have my exploded view open in the model in the back, running behind this. So we want to make sure that is checked. We want that to be checked in order to create this exploded view that we're going to be doing. And then it's going to ask which exploded view. You can have multiple exploded views just like you have multiple configurations, exploding different features out, exploding them out different amounts, etc. So we only have the one again, so we're going to leave it as that. Down below that is our view orientation. We've got top, bottom, right, left, center, and then what we want is the isometric view. Now, you don't always do isometric views as far as assemblies go, but for exploded views, generally, you're always going to do an isometric view because you want to be able to convey 3D space to someone. And people who aren't used to reading prints tend to have a pretty hard time interpolating. I don't know if that's the right word. 3D space out of a 2D drawing. They're not used to it, so they can't do it. So we want to put it in an isometric view to be able to convey that 3D space as well as we can. And then the rest of this we don't really care about. This is that options for trimetric, diametric, if we use them, but we're just going to use standard isometric. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here in our model space, and I'm going to click. When I click, you can see there's our model. Now, it is a little bit small. I do want to make it a little bit bigger. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to scroll down here to Scale. So this you can do in parts and assemblies. We got a couple of different options. We have Use Sheet Scale. In today's age of computers and stuff, Very few people are trying to reverse engineer stuff off of a sheet and take actual sizes. So sheet scale doesn't matter quite as much anymore. So we're just going to come down to use custom scale. Now this is currently at 1 to 4. Let's see what happens when we go 2 to 3. Alright, we get a little bit bigger. If we go 1 to 2, it's going to get a little bit smaller again. Then if we go to 1 to 1, it's going to be pretty big. Now 1 to 1, that's a little big. I think I like that 2 to 3 size. So I'm going to click that drop down again, just go down to 2 to 3. And there is a good size for our assembly here. You can clearly see all of the components. We've got our 2 out here. We've got our single link here, our double link here. We've got our 2 back here. So with that, those should be pretty good. Next up, let's go ahead and insert our table. Now this table is going to be a bill of material table, or a BOM table. B-O-M is how that's spelled. It stands for bill of material, oddly enough. And what a bill of material is it is a list of the components inside an assembly. And it will typically list all of the components inside assembly. Sometimes there are things that you leave out, things like oils and greases and stuff like that. But it generally, if it's got an actual like real part number and it's in an assembly, then you're going to have this bill attached to it. Because right now, looking at this, yeah, I can see that there's like this part out here, and this part here, and this part here, and this part here. But I have no idea what they are. I have no idea how many of them there are, and I don't know what they're called. So what we need to do is we need to put in this bill of material. Now, there's what we're going to do. There's 2 different ways to get to the table. So we can click the drop down over here, or we can click over here. We can go up to like where File and Edit are, go to Insert, and then Tables. So I'm going to click on the one over here in my ribbon. I'm going to click Tables, and we're going to go to Bill of Material. Now, with the Bill of Material done, you can see that it's going to tell me, it's going to kind of lead me along what I need to do. Select a drawing view to specify the model for creating the Bill of Material. Well, that's this one right here. It's the only view there, so I'm going to click on that. Now it's asking me for my table template. This is standardized within Solidworks for all the stuff that you guys will be doing here. You can't create your own table templates. We're not going to. Yada, yada, yada. It says top level only. We actually want parts only. We don't want those sub-assemblies that we created with these. We don't want those to show up. We want to actually see the individual pin head and alignment pin in this table. If we did top level only, it would show that as an assembly, and it wouldn't break that out, so we wouldn't get that detail in there. So let's go down from there. We've got parts configuration grouping. Now, I don't care about that right now. We got keep missing item row. Don't care about that right now. Item numbers. Okay, so this is where identification comes along. This is going to be what identifies each one of our components to the picture that it's actually referencing. All right, because that's all that is a picture without this information. So we're going to go ahead and leave it at starting at 1, but we can identify, we can tell it that we want to start at like 2 with increments of 2. So our item numbers are going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. And then we can say do not change item number, and they'll all just be 1. Then down we've got the borders. We're just going to leave that. This is the table borders. So let's go ahead and hit our green check mark, and we're going to come up with this guy right here. That is a bill of material table. Now, it's got snap points. Snap points are awesome in this case because it will snap to pretty much any corner on this thing. Don't attach it to this corner because it's overlapping and it's going to go over some edges. And don't put it right here because above your title block right here is your revision block typically. We'll cover revision blocks later on when we're getting into like the fine-tuning of that kind of stuff. But typically speaking, I will put mine up here on the top right-hand side. So I'm going to go up there and I'm going to click. And there we've got our bill of material. This is our table. So we've got item number 1 is a double link. Item number 2 is a single link. Item number 3 is the pin head. And item number 4 is the alignment pin. Over here on the far right, we've got the quantity of each. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you guys can really see what's going on. So we've got our double link with a quantity of 5. That's this guy right here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is correct. Single link with a quantity of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And then pinhead with a quantity of 9. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and etc. on the alignment pin. So we've got all of these components in there. We've got an item number in there. Now, how exactly do we call out each one of these, how do we tell the people? Because, you know, I may know that this one back here is the pin head, and this one up here is the alignment pin, and yeah, it's highlighting up here, but they can't do that once we print this thing off. So how do we call those out? How do we let them know which one is which? Well, that's where balloons come in. So a balloon is what we use to call out. A call out is when you point to something and call out what it is. You'd say this is this thing. So a balloon in this case is what we're going to use to call out the item number, and then that item number is linked back to our bill of material table. So there's a couple of different ways we can do it. We can use the auto balloon, which I don't prefer, and we can use the balloon. So the reason I don't use auto balloon is the auto balloon could grab any of these, and I don't want to grab any of these. I want to grab the ones specific to what I did in my exploded view. So let's click the balloon button. So once I've got the balloon number, let's go ahead and click on one of our parts. So this is going to be the this is the pin head, which should be item number 3, and it is. Next, we've got the double link, which should be item number 1, and then we've got our what is this? The alignment pin, which is item number 4, and our single link up here, which is item number 2. Now, all I'm doing there is I'm hovering over it. As I hover over it, it's going to come up with a pointer that's going to select whichever component I'm on. I'm clicking, and then I'm going to come up here, choose where I want to put it, and click again. And that's how you drop those balloons in. Now, I'm going to delete this one. I just hit escape a couple of times to get out of my tool. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to delete this one. I'm just going to click on it and hit delete. Now, one thing you might be noticing is, hey, we have multiple pins in here. We've got two of the pin heads out here. We got 2 alignment pins out here. Nifty thing about this is these will link to other components within the assembly if they share the SLC number. So I've got this pointed up here. If I hover over the box that indicates the end of this pointer, and I hold Control, so I'm just going to hold Control, click on that point, and come over to my other alignment pin. Oh, now it's pointing at both of my alignment pins. So that's just a nice little feature to say, hey, both of these are the same. Can do the same thing over here on my number 3 for my pin head. Hover over that blue box indicating the end of my pointer, hold Control, click, drag, drop. Now I'm calling out both of those. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. We're going to save this really quick. We're going to call this links. We don't have to call it an assembly because we can see that it's an assembly. So if I hit save, now down here it's just links and it's nice and short. Okay, so one last thing that I want to show you on a drawing for an assembly. Even though we've got our table up here and we've got our item number, part number, now the description, this is actually being pulled from one of those custom properties that I was showing you the last week in each one of these. We're not going to fill that in right now, but we can write it in. So if I put in double link, I can say, this. I'll show you what that was here in just a second. Oh, and remember, all these should be capitalized. This is a double link. Okay, so what that warning was, I'm going to go ahead and click down here. All right, so this is saying this cell value is linked to a property in an external model. So that's that model that I was telling you about. It's linked back to that model. Do you want to keep the link or break the link and override the value in the bill of material? So I'm going to go ahead and keep link, and that's going to override that link. So now if I hit keep link and I go ahead and type, this is a single link. Now the description for each one of these, this one's going to be this is a single link, this one's going to be this is a double link. This one I can go ahead and do the same thing. It's going to come with that same error. Hit keep link. This is a pin head. And for the last one, you can do the same thing. This is an alignment pin. There we go. So now we've got descriptions in there. These are obviously not very good descriptions, but that's what they are. I'm going to go ahead and hit save to, save early, save off, and that kind of thing. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you guys prior to getting done with this, is we've also got our quantity information up here, and we can actually include this quantity information down here as well. So if I'm going to go ahead and click on, let's start with this one right here. So this is that alignment pin on the front side that we have 9 of. Coming all the way over here on our left-hand side, we've got our settings. So this is where we decide if we want a circle, a triangle, a hexagon to actually surround our balloon with. We've got right below that, this is set at 2 characters, so that's the spacing on the outside of our balloon. There you can fit 2 additional characters in either side of that next to the balloon so that it's not actually impacting that. So down from there, we've got item number. This is what's actually in the balloon. We got item number. We can put text and write it in manually. We can hit quantity. But what we're going to do is right below that, there's a checkbox that says quantity. We're going to hit that. And now you can see that it's added that. But what we're going to do, let's see. So instead of that, we actually want this to be contained within our balloon. So let's see if we can go split. Here we go, circular split line right here. So we're going to go circular split line. If I go circular split line, I can get rid of this quantity one. And now I've got a secondary option to be able to actually put the quantity inside that balloon. So now I've got 4. This is item number 4, the alignment pin, quantity of 9. That just makes it so that they don't have to go up to the table to find out how many of them. Now the nice part about this is that these two things are linked. Now, if they weren't linked, we would never want to do this. And the reason that we would never want to do that is because the fewer locations you can put in for error, user error, by like forgetting to update a number, the better. If we were to go in and we were to modify this assembly and we were to add 2 links, so now we would be up to 11. The bill of material would automatically change because the bill of material is attached. However, our number down here, if this was manually entered, we would have to change that too, and we might forget, and forgetting is bad. So what we do is we go ahead and make sure these are linked, and if they aren't linked, we don't ever put something like that in here. Now you can do multiples. I can click on this one, and this one. I can do the same thing. I can come back over here to my settings, click where it says circular. I can go to circular split line, leave that at quantity, and now I have all 4 of my balloons with the quantity on the bottom, the item number on the top, and multiples pointing to different locations to be able to identify that those are the same things. And that's it. Go ahead and hit save and turn that bad boy in. So that's it for the links assembly. Beyond that, we have the, I believe it is, I got to pull up internet here because my internet's broken right now, so I can't even reload this page. The ball joint arm. So you'll have the ball joint arm. You do not have to do an exploded view on the ball joint arm. You're just going to put the assembly in here like this, create a bill of material, and then point out all of the individual items with balloons. And that's it, guys. That's it for this week. Kind of a short week. We'll be getting back into modeling next week. I'm working on developing a final project, not a project, a final exam. We are going to have to modify the course, and we're going to be doing an exam instead. So I'm working on that. We'll have a couple of modeling finals, but mostly I just wanted to be able to get through this drawing stuff to show you guys prior to jumping back into modeling and assemblies again. So next week we'll probably be getting back into that. Won't be doing a whole lot more on drawings except for one that you have to turn in for your final. So that's it for this week, guys. I hope that you've got all your answers or questions answered, that we didn't leave a whole lot on the table. I hope it was relatively simple-ish for you. Remember, if you've got questions, you can go ahead and write them in the comments down below. I will see you guys on Wednesday at 4 if you need assistance. If you guys can't make the 4 o'clock Zoom session, let me know and we'll set something up to be able to try to get together at a different time if you need the assistance. Thanks again, guys, and I will see you next week.